Good afternoon and welcome to TheStreet.com television. I'm Janet Al-Sad reporting from the New York Stock Exchange. With us today we have a very special guest, and that is Senator Bob Bennett of Utah, who is a member of the Senate Republican Policy Committee. Welcome, Senator.
Thank you. My pleasure.
The key word, the buzzword that seems to be going around financial circles today is Sarbanes-Oxley, particularly Section 404 and the negative impact that that might be having on listings in the United States. Would you care to discuss a little bit sort of the policy recommendations that Republican Policy Committee might make about Section 404?
Well, we're going to wait and see what the SEC does. We keep getting word that the SEC is going to fix it, and there are some people who say they really are going to fix it, and some who say there isn't anything wrong with the law, it's how the regulations have been written. Frankly, we want to see, and if in fact they change it in such a way that it doesn't become the burden that it has been, why then probably we won't recommend any legislative action. But if the SEC changes don't really solve the problem, it's been fairly chilling on IPOs and very expensive. If it doesn't solve those two problems, then I think we'll take a look at some kind of legislative change that will send the signal to the SEC. We really didn't mean for this to be the disaster that it has been, and we'll make the specifics then. And let's watch with
of action. It was very interesting to note one of the comments you made today at the roundtable discussion regarding your ability to bring forth legislation. I think you said that this was something that would be appropriate for the 6 p.m. news, was that you weren't sure that any legislation would actually be passed or that anything would actually come forth. Do you care to comment any further on that?
Well, there's a new team in charge, and some of the things that we might think are burdensome, either regulations or litigation problems, the new team probably doesn't think are burdensome, and the chances of a lot of congressional action are frankly not very good.
Speaking of congressional action, your colleague Senator Grassley is working on potential amendment to the carried interest taxation. Carried interest is currently taxed as capital gains. However, there's some discussion of increasing the tax rate on carried interest. That, as you know, might affect private equity groups and hedge funds as well as venture capital in the United States, all of whom rely upon carried interest as a motivating factor for continued gains and appreciation. Would you care to comment on the issue of carried interest taxation?
Yeah, a lot of folks say, well, we don't owe the hedge funds anything, we don't owe the VCs anything, they make huge amounts of money and the federal government ought to get its fair share. Every IPO that comes forward, whether it was handled by private equity that worked through a hedge fund, or whether it was handled by a VC and then angel capital, whatever, includes sweat equity, a great deal of work put in by the people that came up with the idea. After all, if there was not an idea, if there was not a business, the amount of capital put in wouldn't make any difference. The capital supports the idea. The people who put in the sweat equity deserve to have capital gains treatment for what they have there. And if you change that to ordinary income, I think you have a significant impact on innovation and entrepreneurship in America. And increasingly in this worldwide economy, that's all we've got. Natural resources can be bought anywhere in the world. Labor can be bought anywhere in the world. The one thing that America has that no other country's been able to match is our entrepreneurial innovation spirit. And I think we ought to be very, very careful before we make any changes there.
Speaking of America's entrepreneurial spirit, I found it very refreshing to hear today discussion regarding the new immigration bill that was proposed last week and how changes to the immigration bill might encourage more skilled workers to come to the United States, remain in the United States, and hopefully become part of the capital markets process. Can you speak a little bit about the Senate Republican Policies Committee interest in the immigration bill and how they feel about the compromise that was reached last week?
Well, I don't think that I can speak for the whole committee with respect to this deal. We still haven't seen all of the details. The deal was outlined to us in general form, but you've still got to read the language. And quite frankly, the language is still being written, still being put together. On balance, as I understand the principles of this deal, it's a good deal. There are items that I would change. There are things that I would emphasize more. But this was a very difficult kind of problem, and the fact that we got as far as we did, or they got as far as they did, is pretty amazing. Because there are those in the Democratic Party who say, you're being far too harsh, you're not compassionate enough, and you ought to allow the gates to open and everybody to bring in all of their relatives, and they can stay here forever, so on. Then you've got those in the Republican Party who are saying, these people have broken the law, you're rewarding illegal activity, you aren't being as firm as you should be about protecting American jobs. And between those two very firm and passionately held positions, we've got to find a solution to this problem. We've got over 12 million people who are here in this country, and the stereotype that they all came across the border at night so that they could get to the emergency room and draw down our health care benefits is frankly not true. The majority of them came here legally, and then they overstayed their visas for whatever reason. They're working. In many instances, we need their labor, and we need it badly. There are crops that are not going to go harvested, that are going to go unharvested this year. They're going to rot on the trees and rot in the ground because there are not labor to pick the crops. And we need to have a high fence with a big gate. And that means securing the borders first, which this deal does. Last year's McCain-Feingold didn't do that. This one says secure the borders first, and once the borders are secure, then in this high fence, you open a big gate and let the people who want to come in here to work, come into work. And those who are already here, you say, you came in illegally. Now, I don't want to embarrass you, but have you ever broken the law? Have you ever speeded on a highway where the speed limit was 45 and you were going 60? You don't have to answer that question. But if you got caught acting in an illegal manner, what did you do? You paid a fine, and then you went on with your life. And what this bill says is, you came here legally, and then you broke the law because you overstayed your visa. All right, pay a fine, set the record straight, and then you can apply for one of these worker visas. And if we need you in this country, you can be here. Finally, the one thing that the immigration debate has missed is the tremendous need we have for foreign nationals with very high level of skills. We have the H-1B visa program, and we say we're going to freeze that at 65,000. Well, as soon as the year opens up, 65,000 per year, that 65,000 is taken up in a matter of minutes. And many of the companies you see listed around here desperately need those workers. And so this bill would raise that number to 115,000, which in my view is still not enough, but create an opportunity for a resolution of the problem intelligently in the future. So there are many things about it that some people might not like, but on balance, I think it's a good deal, and I intend to vote for it.
Thank you, Senator Bennett, for speaking with us so thoroughly today about capital markets competitiveness issues. With TheStreet.com TV at the New York Stock Exchange, I'm Janet Al-Sad.